Welcome back to the Web News, everyone. Honestly, quite a banger for the news today. It's good stuff. Lots of changes. They keep on rolling in, but let's actually just get it started off with a pretty neat story. So this is just Twitter teasing, but it's kind of with notable people, right? Now, I think this is worth mentioning because of the insane recent success of The Last of Us, and of course Mario. Before that, you had successes like Arcane, Edge Runners, I suppose Witcher stuff as well for driving sales. People are just talking about video game adaptations again. Now, someone at Twitter asked Mike Ybarra if we are going to be getting a sequel to the Warcraft movie, and he said, "I don't know about a movie, but there are certainly stories we want to tell." Now, that obviously does seem kind of non-committal, but here's the thing. He did tag Chris Metzen in the tweet. And Chris responded saying, "Indeed, movie sounds fun too." Now, if you go back and look at what Metzen was rehired for, basically, it all said that his initial focus would be on World of Warcraft. And I would presume that would mean setting up elements of the next expansion, given the Dragonflight would have been pretty locked in, obviously. But then that he would be expanding to other projects across the, quote, growing Warcraft franchise, which certainly does have people thinking. I mean, with renewed focus and investment on Warcraft, would it make sense to regain some momentum with something like this? I mean, Dragonflight has been a pretty damn brilliant expansion so far. Perhaps they've got something large in terms of marketability with the next one, and Metzen's going to be advising on something other than World of Warcraft, right? Now, ages ago, I did release a video. It was comparing Blizzard's treatment of Warcraft to how Riot has been treating Runeterra, thinking about like Arcane and a host of smaller in-universe games that they've published under their Riot Forge label. That's basically where they get established indies on board. So if they're taking Warcraft seriously, like they quite obviously are when you just look at the sheer investment they've thrown into the WoW team right now, who knows? Of course, there are loads of settings for a movie like this. I think a lot of people would perhaps think about a character like Arthas. You could also start something off basically by, like with War 3, starting it off with Thrall, right? Do the origin story of Thrall. It'll have edge to it, right? He's in the internment camp. You've got the drama between him and Taratha Foxton. You've got Blackmore being, a pretty awful villain. You can have your cameos from Arthas and Jaina if you want to sort of set those things up for future seasons, and they're sneaking out at night. You've got Arthas and Taratha meeting for a bit as well, so you could get Arthas in. I mean, it does seem like doing like the initial escape of Thrall, that sort of seems like a season 1 of a thing, if they were to really sort of go there. Yeah, I think that could work, honestly. So I guess my question to you is, what sort of thing would you like to see? Would you like live action or animated, TV or movie, new modern Azeroth stories, or retelling of classic WoW stuff? Let me know below. Okay, next, the big bit of game news. I think this will be super impactful. So, after last week, where affixes were nerfed and then they were moved to way higher key levels, which overall meant that people would just be seeing less affixes unless they were pushing higher keys, Blizzard have actually went one further this time around. They've once again actually listened to feedback and they've scored some pretty damn big wins. So, affixes have just been massively nerfed, right? Like they really have. First up, explosive has been yeeted into space and replaced with volcanic. Now, they did have a planned redesign that seems to basically be shielding, which did appear in the PTR, but it's like not announced, so I'm not exactly sure with that, but anyway, that's been replaced with volcanic, which obviously is a pretty easy to deal with one, albeit, yeah, a little boring. But anyway, with explosive, it just seems they couldn't get the desired player response, and I think they quite clearly wanted to move that away from being a healer task. Then we've got Incorporeal. So this is one of the new ones that was forcing you to CC invincible ghosts. Well, those ghosts now despawn at the end of combat automatically, which is really nice. Then Entangling. Entangling has got better visuals, it's got better sound, and it only slows you by 30% down from 50. So that's great. Then Afflicted. It stops scaling its health at keys above 20. And for a lot of people, that is absolutely massive. For Sanguine, it now lasts for 12 seconds, down from 20. Yes, I guess hard-casting mobs can still stand in it, so there is that. But then also, Spiteful is weaker, and it stops scaling at Mythic plus 20. Then they decided that Raging would grant a CC immunity instead of an extra 50% damage, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, they like forcing you to bring more druids or, hunters for Soothes and Raging Week, but this immediately backfired on them. CC immunity, of course, at the time meant interrupt immunity, which went extremely south during Mythic Plus testing on Thursday evening, and then props to Blizzard, they almost immediately hotfixed the interrupt immunity portion of that out, meaning that you still can't hard CC Raging mobs, but you can interrupt them. So yeah, I guess move fast, break shit, unbreak shit. This is a new pace of WoW's development that I'm definitely here for. But then, we've got perhaps the best bit of news, which is that bolstering no longer increases enemy health. You can pull as much as you want now, as long as you can survive that bonus damage. So overall, this is awesome news, and their reasoning is great here. They've just said, we've reviewed the impact of our affixes and made tuning adjustments with the goal of lessening their overall impact on dungeon gameplay. Yeah, they just want affixes to matter less. This is kind of what we've been hoping for. At least it's one of the things that we thought would be a viable option, so that's really good. And yeah, they're, I guess, agreeing with most of the community, at least for right now. And just the idea that people should be playing the dungeon, not the affix, that's definitely prevailing. I think a big hell yes to that. Yeah, look, I'm pretty damn confident that more players will be happy and more people will be playing M+ with this. Now, you might think that Mythic Plus player counts always veered towards high keys, but you see, if you look at Raider.io's numbers, you actually can notice that the vast majority of key runs, at least recently, have been below 10, which now won't even see the second affix because that kicks in at a level of 14. So I think at this rate, a lot of the negative experiences are maybe being taken away. Who knows? Perhaps with 11.0, Mythic Plus will be in a pretty incredible position. Next, a mystery that initially was pointed out by Portergage over on Twitter, where we've got a new Druid PvP talent in the works. Now, that doesn't matter to most of us who are not doing PvP, but it's the specifics that matter here because Cosmic Elevation has been spotted, right? And it looks like a ground-targeted route, but it's cosmic-y. It uses a new icon from an Aberrus mechanic as well. Now, you think of a druid, right? You think of the stars and stuff like that, so that bit does make sense. They deal astral damage. Half their spells almost sound like sci-fi concepts already, except one thing that's getting more and more suspicious. These icons are specifically tagged Cosmic Void, and all of them are in relation to the Void stuff that the new raid bosses use. Things like Neltharion's Corruption and Sarkareth's, I guess, space magic looking stuff. They're all spells related to corruption and shadow damage, and that they use this stuff in a room that is full of literal void elementals and homages to Deathwing's Future at the Hour of Twilight. I think it's kind of notable. Now, obviously I don't know about you, but I've never really thought of Druids and Void together, that they would be connected, but this is an example of that. And it could really be one of two things, either a PvP designer just doing what looks cool and working with some freedom based on the new raid, or it could be a little bit of a hint as to what Blizzard as a whole are thinking about for future story direction. I mean, you've got the Night Warrior stuff with the darker moon. Elune had always been a bit closer to the light in essence. We sort of saw that darker side. Now her druids, who already did stuff like drop moons and people, are playing with forces that share icons and visual effects of literal void magic from space. So that's quite something. I think it's kind of clear then that Blizzard are setting up something with the idea that, we have a cosmos, like the moon, the sun, the stars, and then bringing the idea of the void into that. I mean, what is space but the void between stars? Who knows? Could be cool. I think this could be another hint, I suppose, at some future lore. I can't wait to dig into the new patch to actually just see how Aberrus feels, considering there is just so much dark, Neltharion turned bad, evil, tortured dungeon, void, forbidden power stuff going on. So it does seem that at some point we'll see some full void glory. I doubt it's going to be pure evil. I think there'll be plenty to it. Maybe there'll be some ties to Elune, maybe to Anshe. And then Anshul, whatever this Anshul thing is, if you remember from the Sarkareth trinket, it references Anshul, which is something we'd never heard before. And now we're seeing Druids also have a few of these tricks. I don't know, it's bizarre. We'll have to see. Okay, other game changes then. So Leech has been nerfed. Any Leech rating that you get, so that's from items and such, is 25% less effective, but that actually does not include percentages like from talents. Basically, they said that Leech is a bit too strong in the expansion, and it can even reduce the importance of healers when self-sustain just gets too out of hand. So I'd say this probably won't have a massive impact on you, but I guess it shows they're aware of encroaching issues. It could have been the thing where, like, as this scaled up towards the end of the expansion, it would have got silly, so maybe they're just trying to handle this before the numbers get dumb. As for other news, there's not much else on balance except for another just wave of minor changes for a few specs ahead of 10.1. I'll cover the biggest ones, though. So Feral, having Convoke powered up to be a little bit better again is nice. It kind of reverts a change from when Convoke was too dominant. Then Mistweaver has had the Feline Stomp CD reduced by 10 seconds because they basically felt that relying on resets for core parts of the build to work was a pretty bad player experience. There's also a few tier set updates, nothing super massive except Windwalker losing a potentially broken combo. So their 4 set, right? It used to boost their Shadow Flame damage. Now, a bit of a problem there is that there are loads and loads of sources of Shadow Flame damage from the new crafted items and then things like the very rare Polearm. So if all of this was combining together, then it would have been, quite frankly, in one way you could say too much fun, but also kind of broken and unfair for people who happen to get particularly lucky. Now, the 4 set only boosts the Shadow Flame damage from the 2 set, which basically adds a Shadow Flame element to Rising Sun Kick. Now, one cool change, and I love this, you know Spirit Walker's Grace, right? You use it in a shaman, it allows you to cast while moving. Well, they've actually added in a grace period at the end. So if Spirit Walker's Grace actually ends mid-cast and mid-move, it's not going to cancel your cast. It'll actually let it finish. And I'm sure that some crazy player will be able to like hyper-optimize that, but I think for the most part, that's just a lovely bit of quality of life. Either some hyper-specific feedback or a shaman player in their team getting very pissed off. Now, the last balance change for PvE is that basically every embellishment and crafted item has got a small buff going into 10.1, which of course would be great for anybody who is waiting to upgrade theirs to bring them along for the ride. Over in PvP then, there's actually been a pretty major rebalance away from, well, it's basically a balance to crit damage. So it used to be that PvP crits were 175% of normal damage instead of the usual, which is double. But now Blizzard are reducing them to be 150%. Their goal overall then is to reduce the spikiness of damage to basically have a more smooth experience, but they have actually buffed a ton of stuff that does rely on crit so that it's not like specifically impacted. So there you go, basically. Maybe that'll be good. I suppose it depends on what sort of damage profile you like, but I suppose for a lot of people it's like, you know, when it's purely a lucky crit that maybe makes the difference, how does that make us feel? I suppose that's the question. Maybe that's fine in a big, crazy, you know, random battleground or something. Maybe it's less fine when people are kind of wanting to feel a pure competition. Not that PvP is super pure competition given that gear's involved, but I think you get my point. Now, still on the topic of PvP, they're actually slightly nerfing Honor and Conquest from Solo Shuffle and increasing it for group content. Yeah, I guess Solo Shuffle was just a bit too attractive. You know, in my opinion, nerfing it's probably not the move. I think it would have been better to just buff the group stuff, right? Maybe try the carrot first to see if it works. I mean, if more people are playing Solo Shuffle, then maybe that's a good thing. Maybe Blizzard thinks it could be degrading the experience of, you know, like your 2v2s and your 3v3s. Hard to say, but that doesn't feel great. Anyway, last but not least, if you thought you were being very smart by putting Great Vault acquired sockets on your crafted gear so that you could carry them into Season 2, well, congratulations, you've been rumbled, because if you upgrade an item to a Season 2 item level, the game will warn you that you'll have to prune your socket. Now, this may seem like a bit of a fun please situation, But I think there is a sane reason why. I think Blizzard don't want people to have a significant power level advantage going into the next season just because they spotted a tiny loophole. Instead of socket hoarding, then just, I guess, yeah, get gear from the vault then. Okay. What now then as the news draws to an end? Well, it's Noble Garden until Monday, so you can go. You can pick up some chocolate, hunt for eggs with your friends, get a basket full of eggs that you can carry around on your dragon riding Drake, get all the usual rewards, which does include, by the way, 450 of your monthly tendies for completing activities during the event, which is a pretty damn good tendy source. It's also Warlords of Draenor Time Walking Week right now, so you can go level up some alts like crazy or go pick up a piece of heroic gear for running 5 dungeons on any of the alts that you may want to play in 10.1, which, by the way, this is mad. It's just over 2 weeks away. That's mad. Yeah, man, this patch cycle, yeah, and that's why after this video I'm going on to 10.07, because, oh, shit, man, I've got stuff to do. Now in the run-up to the patch, we're going to be dropping a whole ton of content on what to do, what not to do, just stuff like that, so I guess keep an eye on the channel for more there. With that said, thanks for watching, and there'll be plenty more here over the next few days.